We are in a moment where our democracy is, in many, many dimensions, gasping for air. Because whether it is the concentration of voices in our media and the loss of independent local media and the polarization of our national media, the infiltration into our social media of a hate for profit, a sort of system where what is produced for social media and shared in social media is the sort of most divisive, incendiary rhetoric possible. Or it is the fact that there are so many barriers to registration and voting, and this was before the pandemic created more opportunities for people to not be able to have their voices counted. But really, after 2010, we saw a monsoon, including in Wisconsin, of laws that were designed to make it harder for people to vote under the guise of a very thinly veiled excuse of controlling against, in-person voter fraud, which is something that happens a vanishingly small number of times, but legislators are willing to kick 20% of their voters off the rolls or make it harder for 30% of the people who are already registered to vote, just to try to protect the process from, what would essentially be a half a person every 4 years in terms of the actual statistical probability of it. Or it's the concentration of money in our political system. This is not so much an issue in the presidential level, although it is real, but, really when you start looking at who's funding elections for Congress and state legislatures, it is very tilted. Less than 1% of the population gives to political campaigns in any significant amount. And so that changes who's listened to. It changes who has power. And it's really, gets us, closer back to that property requirement for democracy that we had at our founding than I think we all want to be. So those are the many dimensions, and we could get into, the Electoral College and the U.S. Senate and how sort of structurally sort of skewed our representation system is. But those are the dimensions of why our democracy is, on life support in many ways. And that's not even talking about, the current occupant of the White House and the authoritarian tendencies that he has expressed and that his base has, sort of cheered on. I was really, really disturbed to see new data that says that 75% of Republican voters agree with the statement that you can't trust the outcome of an election when so many people would vote for anybody who was promising a handout. 75%. That frame, that idea that, your fellow Americans want something for free, and because of the sort of needs or desires of your fellow Americans to have a responsive government, you shouldn't trust elections, and that maybe democracy is not as important as keeping the economic status quo. There's just something really, really, dangerous in that sentiment. And to see 75% it's very disturbing to me.